Hello, everyone. This is the Psalmist here. Today, I just want to speak to you about God's purpose for the creation of the kingdom of biblical Israel. We know how God created Israel. Well, obviously, the plan of God, anyone who has understanding about Christianity and then anyone who has understanding about the purpose of God will realize that Israel was planned when God called out Abraham and to tell him that he was going to give him a land, he was going to give him an inheritance. And then that is the obvious thing that anyone can see because the calling out of Abraham led to the birth of Jesus Christ, and then in which Abraham's children will be as many as the sand of the sea, as many as the stars in the sky, which of course means that children, people who are not in the lineage of Abraham, who don't have the same blood as Abraham, became Abraham's children through Christ, because that's what it actually means. When God said that He was gonna make Abraham's children as many as the sand of the sea, He didn't mean in terms of children of Israel being as many as the sea. Yes, the Bible does say that at one time the children of Israel were as many as the sand of the sea. But what God meant was about the covenant that was to be given to all nations who believe in Christ, that they also will become the children of God through faith in Christ. That's why John the Baptist says that he tells the Israelites, the non-believing Israelites, that do not believe that because you're children of Abraham, that probably you are saved from the judgment of God, because God can raise children to Abraham from these rocks, and we are those rocks which God raised children for Abraham. So that's what the covenant of Christ was supposed to do, to give children to Abraham through faith, not through blood, through the Spirit of God, not through lineage or through genes, only through the Spirit. So getting back to it, why did God create Israel? When we look at Israel, we realize how at the zenith of the success of the kingdom of Israel, of the United Kingdom of Israel, when Solomon was king. Solomon literally at the time was the king of the whole world. All kings of the world, all kings of the nations will come to Jerusalem to come and sought the wisdom of God through Solomon. Have you realized that? Kingdoms, kings, and nations came to Jerusalem to hear about the wisdom of this God who has built a temple which is called by his name. This God who has taken a nation from total oblivion and make them the greatest nation on the earth at that time. People wanted to know this God. That was the intention of God. He wanted to make himself known to the nations by raising a nation of people who have his identity, who have his image, so that the nations could come back and worship God. Because if they go to Jerusalem to learn about God, and then Solomon gives them the 10 commandments about God, about how they should submit to God, about how they should worship God, and then about how they should treat one another. Well, they came for counsel, and Solomon gave counsel. You go to a lawyer so that you could seek legal counsel. You go to an accountant so you could balance your books. You cannot go to an accountant's office and when he tells you that he thinks that you should improve on your the way that you handle your budget, and you argue with him. Why did you go to him in the first place? You go to seek legal counsel from a lawyer so that they could advise you on how to handle a legal matter. You would not go there if you did not need them. So people who are going to Jerusalem to learn about the ways of God, to learn about the commands of God, when they're looking for advice which they can apply in their own lives. So when they went there and they spoke to Solomon, and they saw the organization of how the temple is arranged. I mean, the Queen of Sheba was astonished. This God is great. I mean, look at your cupbearers. Look at the organization. Look at how she was just astonished. And from the way that the Bible speaks, it's like the Queen of Sheba came from a very rich family, from a rich royal family, from a rich nation. But when she saw Jerusalem, she was astonished. Was like, wow, there's nothing like this in the world. there was no nation like the nation of Israel, the kingdom of Israel at that time. Every nation wanted to be like them. And to be like them was to fulfill the law. To be like them was to submit to the law of God, to do in accordance with the commands of God. You see, so people came to do what God wanted to happen. People came to seek counsel from the Lord through Solomon's wisdom, through the scripture that Moses had given to the Israelites. Do you see the majesty in that? Do you see the great plan that God had? You see, but God always knew that Israel was going to fall off. That's why Moses told them that, you're going to inherit the land and you're going to get rich and you're going to forget the Lord and that you're going to worship other gods. Moses literally told them exactly what is going to happen. So the plan, even though there was a plan for Israel, there was always a plan for Christians also. Because God knows what's going to happen, what might happen, but ultimately he always executes what he wants to happen. Ultimately, he was going to give all the nations Christ as the one to him, as the one back to life, as the one back to becoming once again the children of God. So Solomon failed to fulfill this purpose of God. Because this wisdom that God gave him, he didn't give him so that he could, become the king of the world, which he became, and become the richest man in the world, which he became, and that's it. No, God, everything that God does, he wants to glory in it. And any Christian who has understanding, understand this, that God will never do anything if God gives me something. He doesn't give me so that, I could, boast that I'm a child of God. All. No, he does it so that people could look, and when they see, and then they try to say, wow, man, you got this and that. And I say, well, it's the works of the Lord. And because they want that, then they will also want to know this God. This is why in the Bible, the Bible teaches us that you're not supposed to boast about anything else except your knowledge and understanding of God. Why does the Bible put it? Why does God put it like that? Well, if you boast about being rich, you cannot give your riches to everyone. You see, all you're gonna do, you're just gonna make people envy you and make people jealous of you, and some people might even do bad things to you. So you'll be bringing bad things to yourself. So you can't boast about your possessions or your wisdom or whatever, or your beauty. You can only boast about knowing the Lord. Because if people become jealous of you knowing the Lord, well, the Lord is available for anyone and everyone who wants. And if they become jealous, they can always get God. But if they become jealous of you being rich, they can't get your riches. You see, they're only going to become envious and jealous. And then you sin by being proud of temporal things, and they sin by becoming jealous and becoming envious. But you are the cause of the sins. And Jesus says that, bad things will come, but woe to those who bad things come through. So people will be jealous and envious, but woe to you who make them jealous and envious. So it was the intention of God. Clearly, it was the intention of God to bring the nations back to him, to bring the nations under his command, under his dominion, by raising Israel and making it a sanctified, holy nation for the glory of the Lord. The glory which God was getting in the time when David was king and in the time when Solomon was still righteous with God. But the human being is just fallen. I mean, why would Solomon, having gold, think that he once led, looking to see that, I have this gold, it's shiny, it's precious, and it's riches, but I just want to know what lead is like. Because that's what Solomon says in the book of the Ecclesiastes. He's saying that, I have wisdom, but I want to know what the other nations are doing. So it's like he's saying, I have God, but I want to know what the gods of the other nations, which are not really God, by the way, which is just idols. I want to know what it's like to worship them and to do what the other nations do, which he wanted to do. And he wanted to do it led to his fall. And the fall of Solomon literally led to the free fall of the kingdom of Israel. Because after Solomon, then all you have is just king after king, fail after fail. all of them sinning against the Lord, bringing the things that God, kicked out of Jerusalem, kicked out of Israel when, the Israelites were inheriting the land. You know, devil worship and slaying of children, sacrificing children, and sex rituals and all these things. This is what God kicked out by destroying the nations and killing them. But they brought it back because of the fall of Solomon. And when you think about it, it's like Solomon might have been probably the most wise person that has ever lived outside of Christ, of course. But Christ is God, so we can't compare Christ and Solomon, because it was Christ who gave Solomon the wisdom anyway. So when we think about Solomon, we think that he was but Solomon became one of the greatest fool of all time also. So Solomon has like the kind of record that is you don't want to have that. You don't want to at one time of your life being the greatest brain that has ever lived, and then at one time in your life also in the same lifetime become the fool, how do I even put it, the most stupid brain that has ever been. You have life, you have the gold, you have wisdom, yet you're gonna throw away this gold, you're gonna throw away this wisdom and look for lead and foolishness just because you want to know how lead is, or how being a fool feels like. Because when you read the book of Ecclesiastes, you realize that Solomon was like, I'm wise, I'm smart, but I just want to know what it feels like to be stupid. That's what it feels like he's saying. And then to even think that someone like him would say that life is useless, that everything is vain because you accumulate wealth and you work hard, and then someone who is not work for your wealth is gonna come and take. To think that a man of God will have such kind of thoughts, it's unbelievable. I mean, if you know God, you know that this life is not in vain. This life has a purpose. The meaning of life, the purpose of life is to manifest the glory of God through the love that he expresses in the things that he gives to all creatures, especially self-conscious creatures like the angels and human beings. And in every creature, he puts a character, a talent, a gift, which the creature must use to bless other people, to serve other people, to add value to other people, to bring joy and peace and pleasure to other people, for the glory of the one who gave the gift and the talent. That is what life is all about. That is the purpose of life. You have the gift, you have the talent, you use the gift, you use the talent to bless other people of all nations. There is no race, only nations. And God couldn't care less about a person's skin color or the color of their eyes or their hair. You see, so you use your talent, your understanding, your gift to bless other people, to make them happy, to add value, to give meaning to their lives. And then when they want to thank you and praise you, you say no. All this glory, all this praise must go to the one who gave me the gift, the one who enabled me to do the things that I've done for you. So in the end, it is God who gets the glory. It's like life is like being in a restaurant, the restaurant being creation, and more like the vine being the garden of Eden. Whole of creation is a garden, is a vine. And then you go into a restaurant, you buy food, and then you enjoy the food. You're like, wow, this is great. I mean, this food is great. I've never tasted anything like this. But what happens? What do people do when they encounter such experiences? What they do is that they want to give compliments to the chef. You see? Because, the thing about God is that you can understand him and glorify him from the smallest things, from something that even is just stupid. But when you think about it, you think about God, you get understanding. Wow. Because you go to a restaurant, you buy a meal, you enjoy the meal, but you're like, wow, I have to give compliments to the chef. And then you call out the chef. And then you say, wow, you have really outdone yourself. This is great. I've never had a meal like this. So you don't just enjoy the food and go home. You want to compliment the chef. So it's the same thing with love. You are in the garden of creation. You are in the vine. So you're enjoying the fruit which God has given for your joy, for your happiness, for your pleasure. What's supposed to happen is that after enjoying your stay in the vine, after enjoying everything that is in the vine, which makes you happy and bring joy, you're supposed to look for the chef. That chef is the creator God, who not only gave you the food to enjoy, but gave you the palace to enjoy the food. So it's like he's giving you the gift. He's even giving you the means to enjoy the gift. That's how lavish and great he really is. And when you get understanding of God, you even get the small things which you take for granted, like the enjoying of food. I mean, do you realize you can glorify God? Write a song or a poem about the palace that he has put on your tongue so you can enjoy your food. It sounds temporal, isn't it? Like they think, I want to write a song about how God has enabled me to enjoy food by putting palace in my tongue. It sounds so temporal. But I tell you, you make that song with a pure heart, it'll reach heaven. But we want great things. We want people, because people want God to make them, want God to make them a millionaire. And then that's when they start glorifying God. But they can't just glorify God for the gift of sight that I can see. And because I can see, I was able to behold my own wife. And I loved my wife because I saw her. And you can't glorify God in that because you're not a millionaire. I can smell. My husband has bought me a flower. This will be the wife speaking, not me. And then I was able to smell the flower. God gave me a sense of smell. You can glorify God for that. But because you're not a television presenter, you're not a celebrity, you're not a superstar, you're not going to glorify God for that. So you're looking for something big. But you do not realize that when you start glorifying God for the small things, the bigger things take care of themselves. Because the more you glorify God, even for the smallest things, the greater he becomes in your life. And the greater you start to see even greater things. And the more he does more, because you become submitted to him because of the joy that he brings to you, even from the small things. And in the end, he has, because he loves getting glory. So he pours out more, knowing that you're going to even do greater things to glorify him. But the gift that was Jerusalem, the gift that was Israel, the gift that was the wisdom that God put in Solomon's heart, did not get the due praise, the due worship that it deserved by telling the nations about God, giving the nations knowledge of God, so that the nation could come and submit in worship and praise and rejoice in God. That's how the world could have changed at that time by Israel through Solomon. The things that the Queen of Sheba was saying, it was like a woman convicted that this God is good, this God is mighty, this God is merciful, this God is loving. Look at what he has done for these people. Do you realize that? Even Jesus says that the Queen of the South will come and say, but why can't you believe in God? But that is the failure of man. It's like God, no matter what he does, no matter how great things that he can give to man, man in his fallen heart will always use it for fallen means, and in the end, man will always lead himself to self-destruction. So that is all that I have to say about this. What is the purpose of God's creation of biblical Israel? And then if you have any comment, you can leave your comment below. And if you love content like this, you can subscribe to my channel so you can receive content like this. Thank you for listening.